In 1585, Sir Walter Raleigh sent about 100 colonists, all of them men, across the Atlantic to settle in Roanoke, a small island on the North Carolina coast, then, of course, part of Virginia.
Flagship of this expedition ran aground on the Outer Banks because, in fact, although they thought that it was a deep water port, it was in fact a very shallow approach to the Outer Banks. So their food supply, intended to carry them through the first year, was spoiled. One of the colonists said they had 10 days' food supply when they landed.
Buffered by dangerous shoals and sandbanks to protect it from invaders, it was also difficult for English ships to land supplies or load commodities at Roanoke.
In early summer, the Indians had already put their crops in the ground. They had no advanced warning that there were going to be 100 extra people to feed for a whole year.
What's more, the sandy, infertile soil made growing crops almost impossible. Roanoke was doomed for failure from the start.
And so they lived through this first winter. The relationship with the Indians deteriorated, as it could have been predicted. And at the end, there was a preemptive strike on the part of the English because they thought Wingina, the chief of the Roanokes, was conspiring to wipe them out. We'll never know what the real situation was, but by the time Sir Francis Drake came to the colony early in 1586, expecting to use it as the base that it had been intended for, he found that things were so bad he had no choice but simply to take everyone home.
In 1587, Sir Walter Raleigh tried again. A second set of colonists, led by a civilian leader by the name of John White, made the transatlantic voyage to Roanoke. The settlers consisted of 94 individuals, including 17 women and 9 children. These were the first English families to settle in the Americas, although they would not be permanent settlers.
John White realized that they weren't going to prosper there. He went back to England seeking reinforcements. He was delayed there by the Spanish Armada. When he could return in 1590, he was the one who discovered that the colonists were gone. So it's the second group of colonists who are the so-called lost colonists, those whom we can't account for.
The only clue to their disappearance was a word carved into a tree, Croatoan, the name of a nearby island. It is also the name of a local friendly Indian tribe. One theory regarding their disappearance is that the Croatoan Indians killed them.
There was no evidence of violence at Roanoke, so it certainly doesn't work to say that they were the victims of an Indian attack.
Still another theory has it that the settlers moved in with the Croatoan Indians.
We now think that probably some of them, that they were dispersed, and that at least a large chunk of them probably did make their way up to Chesapeake Bay, where they lived with various Indian communities. And certainly I think many of them, if they survived, and there's no reason to think that they wouldn't have survived, would have become essentially indistinguishable from Indians. They would have become Indians.
Many years later, in 1607, when colonists did arrive and did found Jamestown, they heard a story that there had been a settlement of white people on Chesapeake Bay until just a few months before, when it had been wiped out, apparently on the order of Powhatan.
No one knows for sure what happened to the colonists.